The San Francisco 49ers are being linked to another elite pass rusher, but the question is, will he actually be available? We'll have to find out. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN is reporting that the San Francisco 49ers are scanning the trade market, and this is actually something that we've heard reported from multiple sources. So I would have to believe it is true, and honestly, we heard it from John Lynch himself. He said they are making calls and seeing what they can get done. We heard it straight from the horse's mouth. So we do know that the San Francisco 49ers are absolutely interested in making a trade for a pass rusher because, honestly, we talk about this all the time. The relationship between rush and coverage is so huge. You know, it really is helpful for your back-end coverage units when the quarterback doesn't have all day to scan the field and throw the ball. So right now the 49ers don't have a fierce pass rush. It's really not something that I think opposing teams are really worried about right now. And that's why the San Francisco 49ers absolutely should be interested in going out and getting a pass rusher. Jeremy Fowler is also reporting that Trey Hendrickson appears to be the apple of the San Francisco 49ers' eye because they do believe, obviously, his skill set and obviously his contract situation combined with likely compensation given up to get him fits perfectly with what the 49ers are looking for. I made a video about this right when Bosa went down. I said the guy that makes the most realistic trade that makes the most sense is 49ers trading for Trey Hendrickson, and it sounds like the 49ers agree. The only issue is Jeremy Fowler goes on to say that it doesn't appear right now that the Bengals seem interested in trading Trey Hendrickson even with a 2-4 record, because as we saw, the Bengals went out and bought a quarterback. They went out and got Joe Flacco, and that is seemingly an indication that they're not throwing in the towel. You know, you wouldn't think that the Bengals would be buyers, but they went out and they got a quarterback. So maybe they are going to wait a little bit longer before they pull that trigger. Obviously, Joe Burrow is slated to return this season. He is a couple months out, though. It will be much later. So I'm wondering if the Bengals are just seeing where they are at the deadline and then seeing if they believe they have a chance to squeak into the playoffs. I would say no, but I don't know. The Bengals are one of the worst run franchises in the NFL currently, which is evident just by how they've handled Trey Hendrickson himself and his contract situation. They didn't re-sign him to a multi-year deal. They just signed him to a 1-year deal, so he will be a free agent at the end of the season, which makes him an ideal trade candidate because that means that the Bengals could recoup some compensation, and, you know, if they're not going to the playoffs, then what's the big deal? So, but that does mean that maybe I think a 3 and a 5 gets it done, but some commenters have, you know, viewers, some of you guys have made the comments, well, if they just keep Trey Hendrickson and he leaves in free agency, they'll probably get a compensatory third, which is at the very, very end of the third round, which is a good point, but a third and a fifth is still better than a compensatory third. So that could get it done, or maybe like a second and a sixth, something like that. But if you're giving up a second round pick, I'm not giving up a sixth, most likely. I would prefer not to give up a second. If the Bengals had to twist my arm and said, we'll do it for a third and a fourth, fine, deal. Because the 49ers offense is healthy enough. Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy's coming back, George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall, We don't know what the status is of Juwan Jennings. I don't really know about that. And he doesn't seem like he would be a trade piece in this Trey Hendrickson situation. You already got T. Higgins. You already got Jamar Chase. They have some good wide receivers behind them. So I just don't see Juwan being a part of that. However, I do think the 49ers should shop Juwan to see what they could get for him, because he is also going to be a free agent at the end of this year. But it does sound like the Bengals are playing a little bit of hardball, and I can understand they probably want to get the most value for their top tier player, and that's the problem with trading an aging edge player who is just dealing with a back injury. I think he left last week's game with a back injury. So he's aging, he's a free agent at the end of this year, and he's very well paid. So that all plays a role into the compensation formula, and it doesn't lend itself to be a very high pick. So, I mean, keep this in mind. Brian Burns, in the prime of his career, was traded for a 2nd and a 5th round pick, largely due to the fact that the Giants had to immediately pay him a massive contract. But they were able to get him for very limited draft capital because he had to get paid. Similar concepts apply when trading for Trey Hendrickson. He's making around $30 million a year, I believe. He is a free agent at the end of this year. I believe he's 31, 32, so he's not spring chicken. And he's just dealing with the back injury. All of those things play into the compensation. So yes, do the Bengals want to get a 1st or a 2nd for Trey Hendrickson? Sure. Who doesn't want that? But they're not going to get it. So what they have to decide is, do we want him to walk in free agency, only acquire a comp pick in return, or maybe get multiple picks, a 3rd and a 4th, or a 3rd and a 5th? I bet also too, for the Bengals, they would like to have a bit of a bidding war situation going on, which could also drive up the value of their trade, because if multiple teams are vying for Trey Hendrickson, then they could get more in compensation. So maybe waiting towards the deadline to see if interest peaks could also be some of the logic going into why maybe the Bengals aren't interested in trading Trey Hendrickson right now at this moment. But it will be really interesting. There's obviously a lot of other names out there. Jermaine Johnson posted a terrible recreation of the emoji he posted. It's like the one with the eyebrows. And obviously that really drummed up the trade speculation. I've heard reports that Jermaine Johnson is getting a lot of interest from teams. However, the Jets are not going to trade him for a bargain. So they have a pretty high asking price from the reports I've seen. Will McDonald was a guy that I really liked out of the draft, who also played for the Jets, could be someone to consider. There's a couple names out there. Obviously, Kayvon Thibodeau's been thrown around. But we'll see. We'll see what the 49ers do. I do believe that they should make a trade. I still believe they should be buyers. I think the Fred situation with him going down for the season should almost be probably put a little bit more of an emphasis on the 49ers getting a deal done, because you don't got Fred. And just like we talked about the marriage between rush and coverage, having a good D-line also keeps offensive linemen off your linebackers. So still thinking that you've got to invest in that D-line. They need a pass rush. If they don't have a pass rush, they're dead in the water. with that defense. You can't cover for 5+ seconds. So that's the way that I'm looking at it. And like I said, you know, some people I think I've seen, oh, well, Fred's down, they shouldn't buy, they shouldn't. No, it almost should put, like I said, it should almost put more of an emphasis on going out and getting an edge rusher, because you now have more coverage issues, and the way you can mitigate coverage issues is by a quality pass rush. I mean, look at the San Francisco 49ers back in the day under Jim Harbaugh. Ahmad Brooks, Justin Smith, Aldon Smith, Will Tuku, it's Isaac Sopoaga. There we go. But guys like that, that defensive line, and obviously they were running the 3-4 defense. They created so much havoc on quarterbacks that they made Terrell Brown, you know, and no shade to Terrell Brown or Carlos Rogers or like Chris Culliver or any of those guys, but they were Pro Bowlers with the San Francisco 49ers. And again, when you have a dominant rushing defensive line or a dominant rushing front, it really helps you on the back end. It really helps you in coverage. So I think it makes sense. I think the 49ers got to do it. But the question is, it's not Madden, right? You're not just plugging in a trade. Oh, the value makes sense, except the value could make sense. Hell, the value could even tip in the scales of the Bengals or whatever team, and they still don't want to do it. So that is one of the considerations. So we'll see what the 49ers do. I'm curious to know what you guys think the 49ers are going to do. What should they do? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.